What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. The weekend's almost here. I am fully decked out in my Laker gear at Christmas time, getting some early gifts. So I got a Rams hat and a Laker thing from a friend, so I'm wearing it. I'm ready to win big tonight. I'm really excited about this slate after a day off yesterday from basketball. Sheets, what are your thoughts, man? We got a monster here, and it's a good slate with some huge tournaments out there. The DraftKings final at 1500. I'll be playing a couple entries in that one. A lot going on in the DFS world today.
Tell me about that. What is that? A $1,500? What is it? A live a qualifier?
No, it's not a qualifier. No, it's the they call it the winter championship or whatever. You know, they have a couple times a year.
Oh, okay.
Hundreds with a 200,000 plus first place prize. And this is one of those days, so it's a kind of a nice one. You know, I've got a couple entries in there right now.
Oh wow.
And yeah, gonna take some shots and hopefully making a big night. But we got a bunch to talk about, and I'm also gonna be scripting and playing 150 in the other one. So
let's go.
We're gonna talk about everything tonight because I'm locked in.
Well, again, not to take too much time away from it, but again, just because you set me on these tangents when you remind me of something important. So again, you're playing several entries in a 1500, and again, I don't know what your bankrolls are or whatever, but again, if for me, I mean, when you're playing a really, really big buy-in like that, which is normally not your average buy-in, mm-hmm. If you're doing really well and really confident, it will give you the ability to play that tournament the way you're supposed to, because what a lot of people do, and I remember you did this, when I first started talking with you, there was a big tournament, you're like, oh, it's a 1500, I don't usually play them, and you ended up playing two really low-owned guys, and I'm like, and that's really, really important to be able to do what is appropriate, even if it's a buy-in that's maybe a little high. And if you're confident in the way you've been running and the way your process has been developing, you can take those shots without worrying about the bankroll, without worrying about the buy-in.
Yeah, I mean, basically in general, I don't play the normal. I play the largest buy-in for large tournament fields on DraftKings and FanDuel every night. So I would play these anyway because they would be that equivalent. But in general, yes, I am playing I wasn't playing the gunslinger the first 4 weeks of the season as football went on, and I felt more and more into that. I started playing an entry in the 1650 on FanDuel every week, even though it's only, the same amount of people, a couple hundred people each week. And honestly, it's been one of my most profitable tournaments. Pretty much.
That's awesome.
I feel feeling really good about it. Anyway, I don't want to talk about bragging.
Right.
I think we've gone to the right track, and I want to focus on that. We're getting a lot of good comments, and we're onto a lot of right plays. And I think that the thinking behind whatever we're doing here is definitely translating both to victories for us, which we've both been on a heater, and it sounds like a lot of the people who've been watching have as well. So let's keep it going.
All right, we're locked. I'm locked in too.
All right, almost. Let's do it. First thoughts on the slate, man. What are you looking at?
All right. First of all, I mean, we can just go game by game because there's a decent amount of value. And there's a decent amount of value that could be coming that we have to account for. There's a lot of games that you could attack if you want. And again, I went over my approach to this slate is unfortunately the same as every slate. Find good games that are competitive, that have values on both sides to try to stack. And if I can do that with low ownership, terrific. If not, then look for the next best thing. And now try to find good high caliber one-offs to filter through my lineup. So regardless of the slate, that's going to be my approach. And I think that there's a lot of opportunities to do that on this slate. So first one we can look at, let's get right out of the gate with LeBron returning to Miami for, I guess, the 80th time since he left. For this game, okay, first of all, I don't have this as really a game that I'm going to stack per se. Okay, for no other reason than there's not a whole bunch of guys like on the Lakers that I really like. It's really just AD and LeBron. And as far as the values go, they both look pretty much the same. So if I were going to play, I'd have to make the determination of which one of them is better. So again, you can look at it one of two ways. On the one hand, I would probably give the edge to LeBron. If all else being equal, I'll give a little bit of narrative edge to it as long as the ownership doesn't catch up to it. But I review those guys as pretty equal. And on the Miami side, on DraftKings, I really don't have anybody is looking that great, if you want to know the truth. Butler just kind of looks okay, but on the context of this slate, he doesn't look to be that great. And Bam, I guess, looks like the next best guy, at least on DraftKings. If we do anything with FanDuel, Nunn and Hero look to be much better on FanDuel. But aside from that, this is not a game that I'm that excited about. Sure, you could play like a LeBron with Butler 1v1, but I just don't think that's going to be my top group that I'm going to go to today. But there's certainly decent plays.
Yeah, I think we need to know the hero news. I don't know whether he's playing or not. That's going to be a tough one. I'm prioritizing LeBron tonight. I need to double check and do my research on LeBron's history going back to Miami. It's more just about the buzz of it being there. I also tend to be like, not only is Miami a good team, a good defensive team, but I always worry about players when they have a night off the day before in Miami, especially a guy going back there. So I could argue both ways, but I think as of right now, at 10K, I just feel like LeBron is going to be lower owned than he should be. Let's say I'm playing two lineups in that 1500. I think as of right now, I'm playing LeBron in one of those lineups.
Wow, that's awesome.
As of now, I mean, look, things are subject to change, but I happen to like this spot for him, and I just think that as just an individual one-off, I don't even think you need to do anything with bringing it back. I think that you could play like weird guys on the other side, like Derek Jones Jr., who if Hero's out, will see a lot of minutes tonight, and actually would be in play even if Hero plays. So I actually think he's really interesting at 4K. I think that the high price will keep people off of Butler. If it comes down to a tight game like we think it probably will be, don't we think that Jimmy Butler will be there at the end, like trying to take over? I know it's a crazy price. Maybe he's the better play on FanDuel than DraftKings, but I think it's kind of interesting if you wanted to go that run back. I'll throw in a little bit of Anthony Davis. I think it's look, the matchups are tough for everybody, but he's fine. Bam in a tight game could play well, but mostly on a giant slate like this, it's just going to be prioritizing LeBron, none over on FanDuel, like you said, a little bit of Derek Jones, and then the other guys I mentioned, but mostly the one I'm overweight on is going to be LeBron.
Okay, so again, like the way I'm looking at it, there's just a lot of different situations like this where you could have this 1v1 situation going on. Like if this was a 4-game slate, and this was the best one, I would be probably 100%. LeBron and Butler, the back and forth type thing. But let's see, like the rest of the games. Maybe there are other situations just like it that we can do also. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, next game. Speaking of which, so next game, Houston against Orlando. So this was actually one of the games that I was really interested in as one of my kind of key games I'm looking at. So again, based on the projections I have and based on upside and all this stuff, probably, again, I don't want to say my best plays or anything like that, but I'm going to find a very difficult time getting away from Jonathan Isaac today. I don't know what his ownership's going to be, but as far as projections and all that stuff goes, he's projecting as an insane value. And I know that we've talked about him before, and he's had moderate amount of success, but nothing really. And we know that he has that ceiling. And Bob, you actually turned me on to that. I never used to think that he was the guy that was like that. And and you kind of got me more involved in analyzing guys like Jonathan Isaac.
He's also grown since then as a player. I mean, we got to remember he was 20 years old. Now he's growing up and becoming a man in the league. It's a different story.
Yeah. So it's high. And so what I'm doing is, I'm obviously on the Houston side. Both Harden and Westbrook are projecting to be pretty decent values, even though Harden at 12.6 seems pretty brutal, but I mean, the guy scores 80 freaking points every night. You know what I mean? So what I'm doing is I'm going to try one of Westbrook or Harden, and there's a lot of these other Orlando guys you could put in here. So I would start with Isaac, and then you have Terrence Ross at 4,300, who's projecting to be a really good value. Then there's DJ Augustine, who he continues to start and put up shots. He could be a good value. And then our own Aaron Gordon, if you're going to stack the game, I mean, you want some juice. And Evan Fournier, again, he's not the highest upside guy, but if I can run like a Harden with Isaac and two other Orlando guys, because you're probably going to need a couple of Orlando guys to get it moving. You know what I mean? To get where you want in this game. So this is going to be one of the games that I think is one of my candidates for attacking. Again, it's a good combination of decent projections and good correlation. And the ownership right now, I mean, the one who's showing up as could be high owned is Terrence Ross, actually. But until Isaac gets more love, I mean, he's a really, really good play as far as I'm concerned.
Wonderful play. I totally agree with you. I don't think you should look at Isaac ever as a guy with safety, just because he does have some variance in his style of play, especially on a team that sort of can go different ways with their scoring. So I do think, though, that we know he has a ceiling. I also think that, as I say that, I do think this is one of the safer type of matchups for him. Just want to make sure I'm coming in clear. I had a little echo back. Am I good?
Yep. Yeah, fine by me.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, Isaac, we've got like I would say that as of right now, I'm prioritizing Isaac. I'm prioritizing Terrence Ross. So like you, and I also think that if people don't play DJ Augustine, someone's going to have to explain to me exactly why at 4.4 we won't take shots on that guy. So definitely want to be overweight on him as well. On the other side, I don't find myself with as much interest as you might like. Probably a little bit too big of a slate to play. I don't know. I'm having trouble with it, to be honest with you. The Harden, House, Capella, Westbrook. I don't love any of the run backs. I want to be about with the field. I would say probably around 15% with Harden, 15% with Westbrook. I think there's a great chance one of them has a big game here. It's not a great spot, but that's just sort of the way it goes. One of these guys is going to put up, 6X at an expensive price tag. But you don't maybe absolutely need them. It's just if you're running two guys on the other side, it makes some sense. People probably would prefer Capella tonight. I'm a little concerned about how much he's actually been shooting the ball. He's not scoring very many points. I know he's rebounding. But I have some interest, again, probably 10% of a guy for me. And then you have Daniel House, who I think I have to be a little bit higher on the field than most, just because at 4,200 in the minutes that he should play, I think that there's upside for him all the time. And I think that he's actually got a little bit of a floor because of those minutes. So yes, some interest in all those guys, but it's mostly on the Orlando side for me, unless something drastic should change.
One other guy, again, on FanDuel, he's the stone minimum.
We forgot one. Yeah, we forgot one.
Is Michael Carter-Williams.
Yes.
He's 3,500 flat on FanDuel. He's 3,500 on DraftKings. I'm glad I put him in this other lineup where I'm probably not going to end up using him to remind myself to bring him up. So I'm not saying he's bad on DraftKings. He's fine, but he's really, really good on FanDuel.
Style of play wise, guys like Michael Carter-Williams, Terrence Ross, Jonathan Isaac, this should suit them more than it should the other guys. Just Houston can be sloppy. They turn the ball over. Houston plays at a fast pace often. Sometimes they don't. It's odd. Mostly they do. They play really fast. Houston will jack up a lot of shots. They'll miss a lot of shots. They'll take a lot of shots. There's just a huge opportunity here. For all the Orlando guys. So I would recommend trying to get at least one of these Orlando guys in your lineups. I'm not going to play very much of Gordon and Fournier, but both of them I'm okay with. They're not going to make it in my lineups on this giant slate.
Sounds good. Okay, moving ahead, the New Orleans Philly game.
We just got a bunch of news on that one, so let's double check this news. Well, so Horford is out, Embiid is in, which is easy. Makes this game pretty easy for me.
I could pretend that I knew that when I was building this lineup because this lineup has no Horford in it. So let's talk about that. This is a game that definitely had my interest beforehand, and now that Horford's out, making it, I guess, even slightly more competitive than it would have been otherwise. It gives me even more interest, and the fact that Horford is out, I would have to believe that means that Embiid is going to be in, although you never know. And that's one of the things we talked about.
No, they announced Embiid in. Embiid available.
Oh, wow. So we talked about this before we got on, and Embiid, last couple of years, he didn't really play back-to-backs all that often, but whenever he did, he always seemed to do really well in them for some reason. And there is this growing, and Bobby, you could talk about this more than I can. So I'll let you talk to the narrative part of it. But as far as just raw projections and all that goes, on the Philadelphia side, Harris, Embiid, and Simmons were looking really, really good when Horford was in. So I'm only presuming that they're going to look even better with him out, just because of usage. So those would be the top three guys, and obviously you have to now look at these Mike Scotts and these and Thoibles and these other guys that would filter in there. But the main guys on Philly would be be Harris, Embiid, and Simmons. And on the New Orleans side, I mean, it's certainly perfectly okay to go with Brandon Ingram, who would be my favorite of them all, and then Drew Holiday would be my next guy. Do you want to play them both? I don't know, maybe. But again, this is the way I'm starting with them. I'm starting with kind of overusing these guys, and then if I have to only go two of them with one or something like that, I could always eliminate guys. But as far as just the easier plays, these guys all look good. I mean, Embiid, Harris, Simmons, and then on the other side, Holiday and Ingram, and you can make all this stuff work. Tell me what you were telling me before about Embiid and all that.
So we have an interesting situation. Like Embiid has not played up to his standard, what people think of him. Some of these teams have released the top 25 list of 25 games. The Ringer did a thing about it. There was a whole thing on TNT where they had kind of ripped him apart the night before. Then he played a game on TNT, and the guys were ripping him at halftime and then complimenting him and ripping him after the game. And he thanked them and appreciated it and said that he knows he has to be better and go out there and just dominate every game. He comes back, this is off of a monster performance. I don't care about the back-to-back. This is a good matchup anyway. I think he does have every drive in him to go crazy here. I think people are going to be nervous about the back-to-back, even with Horford out. He'll have some ownership, but he's not going to be one of the top owned guys of the day as of right now. But that could easily change because some value is opening up as we speak. But I really, really, really like Embiid. He's one of the guys who I'm making a staple in my lineups tonight. I think especially as long as his ownership stays low. If he gets crazy high owned or something, you can get off of it because there is some blowout risk in this game. But I actually don't worry as much about a blowout anyway. I think that New Orleans has like enough weapons to keep this game close. And it makes it really interesting for a bring back because you have really cheap low owned guys in Holiday and Ingram who feel like they're like, look, it's a tough matchup from a good defensive team, but without Horford, this team will play a little bit faster. You'll have some O'Quinn moments, but I don't even know that they're going to go that route against this kind of a Pelicans team. So we've got to see about Favors. I'm going to assume he's out until he actually plays a game because he's been declared as supposed to be in a bunch of times, and we've gone through a bunch of stuff with him. I'm pretending he's out right now, which still makes guys like I don't mind taking shots on Lonzo, on JJ Redick in his returning to Philadelphia. In Drew Holiday in his return to Philadelphia, Lonzo Ball's narrative of not getting they wouldn't pick him first in the draft. I mean, I guess you could go with that. Anyway, that's all kind of reaching, but still, overall, the game environment should be decent enough for all these guys to potentially pay off. And one guy no one's going to look at, who I think I'm going to just now prioritize, who I had no interest in until I heard Horford was out, but I think could get a boost and also is just too cheap for what he was doing before he was injured, is Josh Richardson. 5K, and literally if you had to create a Josh Richardson type of matchup, turnovers, fast pace, this is a spot where he could get it going. Makes for an interesting pivot off of Terrence Ross. I know he's a little bit more expensive, but if you thought about Josh Richardson as even in the same ballpark as Terrence Ross, a few weeks ago, you would have laughed about it.
So a couple of things about that, only because you didn't play yesterday. So Josh Richardson was a really, I don't want to say core play, but he was a really, really good play for me on FanDuel yesterday. He was 4,300, and the reason why his ownership was kept somewhat low is they were talking about a minutes restriction for him. He ended up doing really, really well. He ended up, I think, with 28 FanDuel points. So I don't know exactly how many minutes he played.
26 minutes.
So I just worry about a back-to-back on a minutes restriction. The only
That's a little worrisome. In that news update, I didn't get the notification that anything was up with him.
Okay.
A guy like Kyle O'Quinn is going to start popping for people too. And I think he's an interesting tournament play if you're not playing Embiid especially. Tobias Harris is also in play. Like, this is a game you give the boost to everybody. There's a few of them we're going to talk about. I really like being overweight on these Philly and honestly, and on the New Orleans side too, especially assuming Favors is out. I think we can go back and take a shot on Jackson Hayes even. It's going to be a tough matchup for either of the centers, but they're so cheap that they're going to have to play minutes against these bigs. You might even have to see Jackson Hayes on the court at the same time as the other guy who I wasn't going to play before.
Okafor?
Okafor, thank you. And
he's going back to Philly. He's going back to Philly as well.
He's going back to Philly as well. That's true. And then you have Kenrich Williams, also just really cheap, going to play a ton of minutes. Like, this is a spot where I think you can really go after all different parts of this game. I even think Thibault is an extremely interesting play. I think that over on FanDuel, he's interesting too. He's getting the minutes. He's going to get the minutes, and he's starting to shoot the ball well. And this is a team that gives up open looks. Like, they also turn the ball over. Like, Thibault, I don't know. I mean, I just want to be overweight on all these guys. I think that I need more time to settle because we just got that news as we were going on air. Maybe we can revisit it at the end. But as of right now, I just really have the strong feeling I want to be overweight on everyone in this game, and it's one of my favorite games to stack. Just hoping it stays close.
Okay.
By the
Moving
way,
on.
Fred just jumped 2 points in Philly's favor, which with that news. So Embiid being in, even with Horford out,
That's amazing.
made them already jump it up.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Moving on to the next game, which is another game I'm actually interested in. There are probably 4 games total, and this is another one I'm really interested in: Indiana against Atlanta. I actually like 2 guys from Indiana. One guy I haven't really liked too much recently, but I do like Sabonis in this spot, and I do like Malcolm Brogdon in this spot. He's 7,500, which is the same price he has been, where I've been saying he's probably overpriced or whatever. But, it's a much better matchup for him against Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta is just the worst, especially defending guards. And I think this is actually a really, really good spot for him. And, the projections reflect that. I mean, both him and Sabonis project really, really well. And I really don't know how high owned they're going to be. I mean, they'll get their ownership, but I don't know how popular they're going to be. And I have no problem going with both those guys. I'll defer to you for, oh my God, Miles Turner's almost under 5K, but we'll talk about that later, I guess. But those are the 2 guys, and I would totally play them. And then on the other side, I would run it back with, again, which rates to be a really, really popular Trae Young. That's the only thing that's going to bother me a little bit, because they dropped him down to 9,100, and he's popping and it's a huge value pretty much everywhere. So he's probably really popular, which might temper my expectations for this whole thing, because Brogdon and Sabonis, neither of them are going to be that low owned either. So maybe I won't end up doing it. But I'll go back to Jabari Parker just because of the way his results distribute. He's not projected to be that great, but, like I said, I mean, he's all these guys are priced down for this matchup, I presume. And, I would take a shot with him. And the other guy I will ask you about, again, well, actually 2 other guys, is Kevin Huerter. If he's totally going to get full run now, he'd be a guy I would throw in at 4K. And I'll ask you about DeAndre Hunter, because he's the only other guy I was even looking at.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's interesting about DeAndre Hunter is if this game happened 3 days ago, he would have been like chalk, like he was against Chicago. And I know that was a better matchup, but like DeAndre Hunter, and they got blown out of that game. So I was like, you could just sort of throw that one away for both he and Trae. But DeAndre Hunter's price didn't jump because of that. And DeAndre Hunter was about to be like a 5,500 player. DeAndre Hunter is underpriced still. He's going to play a ton of minutes. I assume that people will take the cue from what these last 2 teams have done, and that's just trap Trae earlier in the backcourt. Yep. Should lead to more open 3-point looks. DeAndre Hunter is probably the best shooter on the team other than Huerter. So Huerter and Hunter are both definitely high on my radar. I do think Huerter's getting the minutes back. I don't love this matchup, but I do like the prices. So, and I like running it back. I much prefer Sabonis to Brogdon. But I don't think I'm gonna play much Brogdon. I initially had interest in Parker, but I've been watching those Atlanta games a lot lately, and they basically are not giving him enough of the minutes. And I think that there's a route that it still breaks where he could go nuts. So I want to have some exposure. He's a guy I'd like to always play at 10% in these situations until John Collins is back and whatnot. But especially as long as he's going to be under that ownership. But I don't think I'm going to make him a priority. But this game is such a huge up spot for the other side. I think that we need to talk about TJ Warren. Like, wow. The team has been absolutely massacred by small forwards, by all wings. Wings that can score and shoot, which if you're going to give Warren open looks, like he'll shoot the ball. He's got upside. Like he's 5K. Him and Jeremy Lamb are both interesting. I think Warren's minutes are a little bit higher and secure, and I think he's actually safe. Like I actually think that he could be almost on a different slate, like cash game play. Like he's going to score 25 to 35 most of the time, but I think there's that extra upside because of the matchup. So, and even at 35, you're happy with him. I think Miles Turner fits the same category. Like you're talking about guys so cheap who can put up 50 fantasy points. Now, will he do it tonight? Probably not. Is it a great matchup? Yes. Are there times where we would play Miles Turner at 7,500 in this matchup? Yes. And we're just not doing it because he's been off lately. So let's forget about that a little bit. I don't think he's broken. They're not using him. He's going to still play 30 minutes. And let's take some shots on all these guys. Like I know I'm saying that about a lot of games, but we've hit a lot of hard ones early. It goes early, and then I don't have a whole lot till late. So we're going to have one more that I love, and then we're going to have a break for a while because this is a game, you want to be over the field on. There's a lot of good, interesting spots tonight, but you really want, exposure to both sides. Atlanta because of the pricing, and Indiana because of the matchup and the potential upside.
The last guy that I would mention that is showing to be really projecting pretty well, really, really good value. I don't know where you put him, but TJ McConnell at 3,400 is, again, if you need $3,400 guys or whatever, he's looks pretty good. I wouldn't play him in the same lineup as Brogdon, but he's just, as long as we're identifying guys in this game, he's definitely just as good as some of these other guys.
Maybe, yeah. The minutes worry me. The minutes upside worry me. I want to mention also, we just got news that Austin Rivers is in, so that means I have a little less interest in Daniel House. I just want to throw that out there.
Okay. Okay. Moving on to the Charlotte Chicago game. The first thing I would say is I do not bet sports. Okay. I think all prices are very, very efficient. I think it's very, very difficult to any kind of edge in betting sports. But this spread, this over-under's up freaking 213. I can't imagine this game not going higher than that, which probably means it's an easy under. All right. So in any case, my thoughts on this game, again, I was expecting to like this game a little bit more. I guess for the same reason, I guess I just have a bias that in my head, this feels like a higher scoring game than that. So I guess that I would imagine these guys would project a little better, but they're just not. On the Charlotte side, I mean, everybody doesn't look that great. If you want to know the truth, like Bridges looks fine. Biyombo looks okay. On straight projections, like all these guys just looking kind of, I guess say crappy. Like, and if you look at Devontae Graham, which I'm going to talk to you about in a second, I mean, even he is looking like pretty kind of a shit. I don't say shit, kind of a bad value here. And then on the Chicago side, what we're really looking forward to, I mean, like Levine and Carter and Markin look to be the best, but none of them look to be that great. Now with that said, I mean, I'm going to play a Graham Levine lineup. I'm just going to. I mean, like just on sheer principle. Okay, I'm going to do it, and I don't know where I'm going to do it, but there's going to be a certain amount of exposure to Levine and Graham. I probably will not like use either of them as one-offs, but I will go back and forth with Levine and Graham, regardless. I don't say regardless of projections, but projections aside, I think there's upside from it as always with both of those guys.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that I'll do a little bit of it. The field's not going to have it at all, and this is when we always end up making money. Like, you always look back at everything, and now it's a lineup I played Levine in. That's where we got all the money from. So I love it. You could get 23s from these guys. They can make 23s combined. You never know. It's definitely within the realm of realistic possibilities. I actually think it's like not that far-fetched. I know that sounds crazy. Devontae Graham has become like, what's really crazy, and I know this is going to sound nuts and you guys are going to rip me for it, so go ahead. But Zach LaVine, I think, is going to be an all-star this year. That should be shocking to a lot of people out there. It's going to offend some of you, but I think he's going to be. And I've got a lot of reasons why, one of them being that they're hosting the all-star game, and who else are you going to pick from this team to play? They don't need to have somebody, but you basically do. Miles Bridges is an interesting tournament play. 5,100 again, good matchup. Look, this guy doesn't always get there. That's why we like him. That's why he stays at 5,100. But what's weird is that he's actually been consistent at that, and he's been just terrible shooting the ball lately. 4 for 16 in the last game, still put up 26. He's gonna get hot and put up 45 very soon. This is a good matchup for that to happen. I want to be overweight on Bridges. Everybody else I want a little piece of. Like here and there, I want the Graham Levine thing in some of my smaller lineups maybe. I don't mind throwing Carter into a lineup or two, but I don't think this is a place where I want to prioritize in this slate, which is a little bit off-brand for us. These are the teams that we usually attack and like to attack with.
Well, one other thing is interesting little bit of game log watching. So I look at Miles Bridges, and in this last game, he was 3 for 7 from 3. He was 1 for 9. What's that? 1 for 9 from 2. You know what I mean? And though that is just not going to continue. You know what I mean? Like the one of 9 from 2 is the one that has, that is going to get the most regression, most positive regression than the threes. So I agree with you. I think that Miles Bridges is, as long as you're going to keep getting his third, why wouldn't he? He keeps getting 36 minutes every freaking game. At 5,100. See, it's so funny. Like, you look at him as a tournament play. Like, for me, like, I look at him as like a guy that's going to get 36 minutes, and I would just put him in as like my last guy at 5,100 and not worry about him. Like, I would just figure maybe, you know, get his 25 or his 30 or whatever it is. But yeah.
There's upside for that. We've seen it before, and like he's getting the minutes, and those, yeah, like you said, those twos are gonna fall. Like those 25s become 35s and 40s real easy when you start making dunks or start getting a foul call. That's one of the things that's been happening. I'm not gonna go on a tangent about this, but young players don't get fouls called. I watch a lot of Charlotte games because, like I said, I usually bet against them and on them. But Bridges is a guy who definitely doesn't get the respect of the officials, and just one of those young guys that's, you know, figuring it out. He's gonna start finishing these plays, and that 5,100 is gonna be 6K soon enough. Just trust me. Let's move on.
So this next game wasn't.
I'm sorry.
I need to be. What?
I'm just gonna mention Chris. Not Chris Dunn. Chris Dunn is blah, whatever, fine. 4,600 cheap, but Kobe White just is worth a tournament dart at 4,600. There's
Chicago.
I could see him going a little nuts here. Yeah, sorry, that was the last game. So we'll move on.
No problem. So the Milwaukee-Memphis game, I was originally not going to go after this too much, but now I think you're going to have to talk me off it a little bit. So first of all, I thought that Giannis was out last game just for rest. I heard somewhere that he actually might be injured in some form. I don't know what this Q tag is all about nowadays, but I mean, just be on the lookout for him being ruled out again. You know what I mean? Like,
I think he's ruled out again. I think people are operating under the assumptions that he's being ruled out.
Oh, really? Oh,
like, wow. I mean, if you look at like Meansy's core plays, he's ruled out.
Okay, well,
no, he's not ruled out. Sorry, his core plays are Middleton and Bledsoe.
Okay, so I mean, obviously, fair warning. If in fact he is ruled out, then Middleton and Bledsoe become locks again. Okay.
Near locks. Yeah. I mean, I think you can play just one of them in some lineups and then get creative.
Yeah. But aside from that, I mean, so on the Milwaukee side, I'm presuming him in for now. I mean, Giannis is certainly, if he plays, he's certainly always in play. What's become incredibly interesting is the Memphis side. I mean, the Memphis side, his value coming out of your ears. I mean, probably, and I don't know what the ownership is going to be, but the following guys are all projecting to be insane values because Ja Morant is out. Grayson Allen, I think, is out. Mm-hmm. Brandon Clark remains, I think, out. So I have DeAnthony Melton as one of the top values on the whole slate. Jaren Jackson Jr. as a really good value. Tyus Jones as a really good value. I haven't looked at FanDuel yet. I presume he's the usual 3,500 on FanDuel. And then you drop down a little bit that even Valanciunas, center against Milwaukee, is projected to be a pretty good value. If Giannis plays, or even if he doesn't, can I play four guys? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, can I make Memphis Milwaukee like a core game to go after? I wasn't thinking that at first, but I got to really think about this.
Sorry, we have some other news in. Like, I can't pay attention to this right now. We gotta probably I'll come back to this one in a second. I love this game. What is happening that's making all of a sudden Patrick Patterson go crazy off was Paul. I have to see.
That's Lou Williams.
I just have to see if somebody was ruled out. Why would Patterson be the guy who they're responding to? Okay, as long as it wasn't Kawhi. Sorry about that. We can go back to Memphis. I just wanted to make sure for a second I wasn't missing something, because why did all of a sudden – I mean, it's a ridiculous jump that they gave him. I think it was just a bad mistake on the site I was looking at. So, all right, well, I will go back to the Memphis game then. So I love this game if Giannis is out, obviously. I think it's really hard not to play Middleton and Bledsoe. I'm going to just keep assuming he's out. If he plays, I think Giannis is a great play. That's the truth. So pretty much no matter what, I'm going to have interest in this game on that side of the ball. I think that if Giannis is out, you can take stabs with the other guys again. But remember, this team is very deep, like we talked about the other day. Outside of Bledsoe and Middleton, and Ilyasova's prices now have gone way up, and I would probably recommend more fading, taking some shots on, depending on the ownership, I guess. But on the Milwaukee side, that's just sort of the way I'm looking at it. I definitely want to get exposure to the other guys, but mostly it's going to be Middleton, Bledsoe, and Lopez for me. I'll be playing those three again. On the other side, you're right. The value does seem really good, and I have less interest in Jaren Jackson, maybe a little more if we know Giannis is out.
Because of the foul trouble, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I just don't like. I don't know. I prefer. I guess that I don't want to play him with Joe Val, and I really like Joe Val.
Okay.
I think both the point guards are tremendous plays. Like, take a shot on either of them. Don't play them together. But I do think this is a really good spot for them. And just note that they may actually get some minutes together at some point in this game. One guy whose projection won't change much, but should probably be a little bit more expensive in this up-paced matchup which it is for both teams, is Dylan Brooks. I like this. I like the Memphis side, and I even don't mind throwing in Jay Crowder as part of maybe a stack, especially if Giannis is out. Like, I think this is a very stackable game and a game that I have a lot of interest in. This is the last one before the late one that I have.
So you were mentioning playing 150 lineup. So if you were scripting this, for example, would you do something like max one, Tyus Jones and Melton, and would you also do max one Jaren Jackson and Valanciunas?
No.
Okay.
Because I want some of that. I want that possibility. It's there for them to both get there.
Okay.
There's a way for it to happen. It's unlikely, but if I'm playing 150 of those lineups, I don't mind taking some shots with a few of them, because if it does, it's just unknown stuff that could go on.
Okay. So I mean, the only thing I would caution that is like if you're going to script it and run projection based scripts, right? They're like, you have like Tyus Jones and a Melton. Like, the way the projections work, they're not going to presume one gets there and the other doesn't. You know what I mean? They're going to give you the median for both of them, right? So it's going to be, I don't know. It seems as though you at least want to script max one, at least some of your lineups, I guess. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just, again, that's the math of me just kind of thinking about it. But I mean, you've done this longer than I have.
I understand it. I just think that it's not going to pop up that much anyway, just based on the overall interest. But
okay, but obviously this is definitely a game that that lots of value is going to come from.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, Golden State at Utah. This is another game that I'm not going to stack or anything like that. I think this game is going to be a complete joke, but nonetheless, there's some value that's popping out of this game. So let me just go over it. So first of all, on the Golden State side, I mean, I'm presuming still no Draymond Green, no Pascal. D'Angelo Russell, I mean, God forbid he gets his freaking minutes. He's going to be taking a billion freaking shots, and he is projecting to be a good value, presuming 32 minutes, right? So who knows what ends up happening. And he's always a tournament play. So I certainly would consider him. I don't know exactly where or how, but I would certainly consider him as kind of a guy to run through my lineups. And the two value guys are with Pascal and Draymond Green out are Spielman and Marquise Chris. Spielman is 3,100 on DraftKings and Chris is 3,800. I'm just not even looking. I'm presuming that they're both the minimum price on FanDuel. And they're going to show up in optimals. They're going to show up in runs. And it's kind of hard to just X them out of your player pool. It's even if it's a blowout, one of them might end up getting a lot of run. And just as far as pure projections go, they're certainly popping. Let's put it that way. And on the Utah side, again, their minutes are very fragile because of the game script. But the same four guys, Mitchell, Ingles, Bojan, and Gobert all look to be pretty decent plays. I don't have it in me to stack the game. You know what I mean? But if I were, play some D'Angelo Russell with maybe one or two of these guys with the idea that Russell has to have a big game to keep the game close to give these guys their minutes. But I'm not Xing this one out of my player pool. I'll say that.
Yeah. My favorite play in this game is Alec Burks. I love Alec Burks. I think that this is a spot where he could go nuts. He put up 40 last time he played them. He should get the run back. Even should be blowout proof. He definitely has revenge on his mind. He's played last year,
I forgot about that.
even when he was barely playing minutes, he still had his shot attempts, his most shot attempts each month. When I'm looking down his game log from last year, they all were against Utah. And then this year, he only played 18 minutes in the first game, put up 20 fantasy points in only 18 minutes because they weren't playing in minutes at the time. And he put up 40 in the second game. I don't think you need to look for too much extra. Like, I think that's, he's taken more shots against them. He's made it very clear, like they gave up on him. I just think it's worth look, it's a little narrative street stuff. It's not just that, but it's on top of it. He should be blowout proof. The usage should go to him, other than Russell. So I think he's a really sneaky play that no one's going to be on. And at 5.3, I think he even projects as a decent play separately from the little extra narrative things I give you. So I think he's a guy I might see in the 20+% range tonight depending on what we hear later on. So he's a guy I could be taking a shot with. But I also am interested in D'Angelo Russell. So I'm obviously, I don't think I really want to play them together. If you're doing that, then you are sort of stacking and playing the other side. But I think that's pretty much where my exposure is going to lie, outside of taking a shot here and there on a Spellman, a Chris, Cauley Stein. But like, those are going to be like maybe 5%ers for me. I don't think that I need to go there on this slate personally. On the Utah side, I don't really have much interest in anyone. I think that they're all fine, but I again am worried about this game staying close on their side. And even, I mean, whatever, like whether it does or doesn't, I guess Mitchell's fine, but I just find better plays I like on this slate. Gobert's and Rubio, Ingles got priced up. Gobert's fine. I like him. I think he'll smash their inside, but I guess he's probably the better pay up here, but I think Moutier would be the more interesting one, just because you're going to get, low ownership with upside. If he could get the blowout run, he could even get regular run. So I don't mind taking a shot with Moutier here.
Yeah, there's a lot of, let's put it this way, a lot of guys in the possible player pool tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be that way on this slate, and then we narrow it down when we get more news, and that's what we do. Yeah.
So let's move on to the Clippers and the Clippers, Minnesota. And as we were just kind of, I see who's popping. So as we were just starting to talk, Lou Williams was ruled out. And as a matter of fact, also JaMychal Green was ruled out.
That's what the other one was.
So I actually do have some updates here. And if you wanted even some more value, man, this game is now bringing it to you. So first of all, the obvious type plays are Kawhi and Paul George on the Clipper side. Both look really good. And Bobby, I don't want to step on Bobby's toes, but Bobby likes to give a boost to people playing Minnesota in general. But I'll let him deal with that. And on the Minnesota side, I'll get back to the value on the Clippers in a second. But the obvious plays on the Minnesota side, I have Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins both look to be pretty good. And we'll deal with the Minnesota value later. I mean, the Okogie's just okay. Covington's just okay. Teague just okay. But with Lou Williams out, the two guys that I'm actually seeing pop, believe it or not, one is Derek Walton.
Yep.
Is Derek Walton Jr. At about 3K, 3,200. And the other guy who I feel proud of myself, I actually predicted this one, was Jerome Robinson, who's actually been afforded some more minutes. I mean, one place is predicting for 22 minutes, maybe 23 minutes, and he's min price at 3K. So these would be the two guys that logically should benefit from Lou Williams being out. And at 3K, I'm certainly going to put him in my pool of value. Let's put it that way. You got to watch ownership and figure that out. I mean, I don't want to play either of these guys at 30% ownership, but there's certainly guys that are popping as really good values.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm getting that as well. I'm lowering my ownership on Man, upping it a little bit on Robinson and Walton, but I don't know that I'm going to end up being in love with either of them. I just think that these are not stone cold lock values. Wait till we hear the starting lineup for one thing. I mostly am looking to play the guys in this game. My thing about Minnesota, double the field. That's what you do for everybody. Unfortunately, Kawhi is a guy who, oddly enough, as good of a player as he is, people say he doesn't get love in fantasy. I think he actually is over-owned a lot of the times, just because it feels like a little bit of I don't know, he's usually priced a little bit out of the range I like to. I feel like that with Durant a lot as a tournament player, probably is a guy who makes more sense for cash games usually. but I like Kawhi in this. I mean, it's a great matchup, and I like Paul George. I like both of them. I don't want to use them together, I don't think, but I think that Montrezl Harrell should also get a little bit of a boost because if this game is competitive, like they need somebody to really body, and I don't know that Zubac is going to be able to do anything at all with Towns. So I don't know. I just think it's kind of interesting. And you have no JaMychal Green, so you could potentially see other big. Like I don't know. I'm just trying to think if there's any other bigs that I could go to, but mostly it's going to be. I think Paul George and Kawhi with about the same level of interest, maybe a little bit higher on Kawhi than Paul George, but it's really close. And then I would go to Harrell, then Walton and Robinson, and then Harkless. Harkless is going to get a lot of run too, and might get overlooked. And this is one of those great pace matchups for him at 4.2. Not the most exciting play in the world, and you always feel like, oh, he can never get there. But this guy's saved me when he played for Portland a number of times when he threw those 40 fantasy point games out there. And you look at it now, he's put up 3 games in a row over 24. Not the most exciting guy play in the world, but certainly should get a boost with all these guys out. Sheets?
Yeah, this is this slate's going to be a doozy.
That's going to be an interesting one.
The slate is going to be a doozy.
For quite a while.
Okay, so moving on to the last game. Knicks against.
We just play a bunch of showdown slates and just forget everything else. It feels like it, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, this is crazy. Every game you got a good argument for every game here.
All right, so Knicks Sacramento. You know, I want to be transparent. You know, don't do this, but I'm doing it. Okay, so. All right. So I will tell you right now that based on the projections I'm looking at, there's not a single Knick that a human being would want to play. They're all projecting negative. They all just are kind of whatever. And, you know, you really don't want to play any of them. On the Sacramento side, the only guy that's looking to be decent is, well, I shouldn't say that. Hield projects to be okay. And then like a bunch of break evens like Bogdanovich, Bagley, Holmes, Barnes, okay, whatever. So it's one of those games where, you know, 210 total, you probably shouldn't do anything, but I'm doing it anyway, okay? So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to do the exact same thing I did yesterday. I'm going to take Julius Randle. I'm going to take R.J. Barrett from the Knicks, okay? Because those are the guys I'm confident in, all right? Mitchell Robinson, not really. I'm going to take those 2 guys, and then I'm going to run it with some Sacramento guys. I'm going to run it with Bogdanovich. Probably going to put Holmes in there. And probably mix and match some Hield, some Bagley even, some not as much Barnes. And I am going to take a shot that even if none of my other lineups are doing well, that I'm still going to have something to root for.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm necessarily going to go stacking this game because I've already named a bunch of stacks that I like. But I love the 1v1 I'm going to have at the end of the day with Bogdanovich and I think it's going to be either Barrett or Randall, but I think it's going to be Randall. And what becomes interesting, though, is the speculation at point guard. I think that taking a shot on Peyton, not knowing what the minutes are going to be, you know, maybe he ends up starting to play a lot more minutes than Ntilikina last time. Like, it feels like a bad situation. But there's just a lot of upside for this spot. Like, what if Dennis Smith – like, I just don't know. Like, he sat out the last game. What if he gets the start? Like, it feels like too much speculation. It's probably the wrong slate, but – I think that it's probably worth, if you're playing 150 lineups, throwing in, you know, maybe 3% of the combination or 5% of a combination of those guys, or maybe even a little bit higher than that.
Well, Peyton closed and played the whole overtime the other day.
Yeah, I know. And that I still, you know, nobody's going to play him, and he didn't put up a big game, but had he started that game, you'd imagine he played more like 36 minutes. So maybe if you put him at 36 minutes, like, he becomes one of the better plays. So it's probably, he's the one that makes the most sense, but
on FanDuel, Bogdanovich is 4,500, making him on a percentage basis a better play, or I should say not a better play, but an even better play on FanDuel. And just eye testing, just something that I noticed. Just take this for what it's worth. So Bogdanovich was really just, you know, not playing very well in this last game. And, you know, I was like, oh, God, I really needed him for my FanDuel single entry. He had like 2 points at halftime. And then they brought him in with like 4 minutes to go or something like that in the third quarter. And I think they played him like the full 16 minutes that closed the game, you know. And it's not even that he was playing that great, but at least, they showed that they will give him the minutes, if they feel that it's appropriate, and that they will have him close if appropriate. Now, again, he's still not the number one option out there, and I saw a lot of possessions where he kind of just hit off in the corner and let Heel just kind of do his thing. But they did run enough stuff for him that I am confident that, at a cheap price, I'm going to continue to play him.
100%. I think that you got to have a lot of exposure to him, but I want to just point out that I am worried about the assist rate. And I think it's a real thing that the way they're running their offense these days is they've run more screen and roll with Buddy Hield and Holmes. They run screen and roll with Corey Joseph and Holmes more. They are the ball. He's on the other side of the court as like a distraction 3-point shooter some of the time when Hield's in the game.
100%.
It's a worry. It's a real worry from a fantasy standpoint. But at 4,700, we really know that upside is there. I think we can. I like the matchup actually fine. And the truth is, like, again, he's going to have one of these days where he puts up 60. Like, not a joke. He's going to put up 60 before the Lakers trade for him.
Two other real quick, again, not to spend too much time, real quick, again, basketball observations about him, because I was really sweating him and I really needed him in the last game, is number one is that one benefit to the fact that they're, running a lot of stuff away from him, and he's kind of a decoy sometimes. I don't know if they keep records of this percentage, but the percentage of time he shoots when he actually does touch the ball is kind of through the roof, because he knows he's not really getting it all that often. And I'm telling you, I was watching the game. When he got the ball was off. You know what I mean? He was trying to find every excuse. And that's one of the reasons, like you said, his assist rate is probably pretty crappy. And the other thing,
his assist rate was great before, but
when they ran him as point guard.
He was getting a different spot because he was playing without Hield and without Fox for 12 minutes of the game.
And the other thing I will note again, just the eye test, is on the defense. As far as rebounds go, he literally wants no part of any defensive rebounds. Like, the shot goes up, he literally just clears out and lets Holmes and the other guys crash. And that's probably by design, but just don't expect any triple doubles from him kind of like anytime soon.
He's banged up. I think that's the answer too. He's not the same, but still 4,700 and is going to go nuts one of these days. Just mark my words. Hopefully it's tonight for Sheets and I. And for those
here's my view of this slate. Okay, this is just got to be a Bobby slate, because the way I'm looking at this slate is, and I kind of joke about this, whoever wins this slate, meaning whoever either wins the 1,500 or the 10 or whatever you consider the main tournament here, they should definitely get like $100,000 bonus from somebody for winning this slate, because this is hard. Okay, this is a lot. There's a lot of ways you can go. There's a lot of plays you can make, and I think that with all the value that's come and is coming, I feel as though you're going to need a lot of points to win this. So I actually think that, Bobby, your strategy of scripting here is probably not bad, because you're going to want guys that maybe at first glance you'd be like, ooh, maybe I really don't want him. But you probably do want guys like that. You know what I mean? So you kind of want guys that kind of get forced in sometimes for you, I guess. As far as what I'm doing, I mean, I'm just going to do my same thing. I'll probably do my 20 lineups and just kind of like focus my 4 stack games and just kind of, filter in the one-offs kind of along the way. But this is going to be a very, very difficult slate. And what I would suggest, and this is kind of weird, but kind of like NFL, in a really difficult slate, don't try to play everybody. Take your stances. You know what I mean? Focus in on your games. Realize that there's a lot of variance in DFS, and then just hope that your one-offs kind of filter in. Because if you try to play zillions of guys, you just end up, at the mercy of variance, like way too highly. You run the risk of being right on 3 guys and not cashing in those lineups. You know what I mean? So what I would do is take your stances. Maybe not go 100% of anybody, but even at the 20 lineups, I'll go 30, 40% of somebody. And, maybe, I don't want to say names, maybe like an Isaac or somebody like that. And not be worried about, boy, I don't have much of this guy. I don't have much of this guy. I don't have much of this guy. There's hundreds of guys you could play tonight that you could justify. And I would not spread too much just in the name of fear of missing out. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's a great point. And to that point, like, one thing that's been great for me about what's been happening lately is doing these shows with you is that we've really talked through like so much stuff that I don't find the need. I've been really dialed in and watching the games too, but like I don't find the need to read as much as I used to because I already know all the stuff. So we may not talk about some of the analytics or in-depth technical things that you probably shouldn't focus on, that you should let us focus on, and maybe you guys can figure it out, because like Sheets said, Sheets doesn't look at every single on off court every moment, but he can aggregate enough information from the people who do, and so can I, and so can you. But also, my basic point is that talking through it with another person who knows what they're doing is a great way of doing it. And it sounds like it's been good for you guys to listen to as well. It's the reason why these shows work for all the sites, RG, Osimo, everybody does the same things. Not even going to talk about Tommy G, that's for another day. But anyway, we are really happy to keep doing these videos. Please give us the like and the thumbs up. Sheets, I'm going to ask you for any more final thoughts. Just you gave us a lot on the end of the slate, but maybe like one play.
Nothing final. And again, I would ask you to review your ownerships, but so much has come in the last 10 minutes.
I actually kind of would like to do that, because basically in order of ownership, I'm assuming Giannis is out way high on Bledsoe and Middleton to a tier of their own. Another tier slightly of his own, but only slightly above the next group, is Joel Embiid. Then
you bumped your mic out just a little bit.
Sorry, Joel Embiid.
Good.
We've got LeBron James, followed by LeBron James, Trae Young, Jonas Valanciunas, Ben Simmons, who I mentioned earlier, but I didn't mention enough of. Sabonis, Leonard, Isaac at the moment, and George. I have all those guys in the same tier at the moment, and I'm probably going to adjust that. And right beneath them, you have the Tyus Jones / D'Anthony Melton, like basically half for each of them, taking a shot, because I think one of them does get there big time, for their price. I like I want to go right back to DeAndre Hunter. I think that no one's going to play him, and I think he is a higher end player. I also want to go right back to Miles Bridges, who I also think is a guy who doesn't get as much, I think he's a 6K player. I think the other guy's a 5K player. DeAndre Hunter is a 5K plus player. They're just underpriced, and in spots where you could see them 8 to 10xing just completely off the board. And that's how we've been winning, is finding those right guys. And those are two guys you can consider today. So for Sheets, guys, I'm BobbyFi. We're going to get out of here because we've been going on for a while, but let us know everything we can help you with. We appreciate you tuning in with us. We love you, and we're out of here. We'll see you guys soon.
Hey, Bobby, stop